Thank you very much. I had the chance to brief the Security Council today on the recent developments in the Democratic Republic of Congo. We had a very long meeting also focusing on the military aspect, the fight against the armed groups, but also the very important civilian questions of the demobilization program, the post-Kampala conflict, and the general DDR questions. There at the time being 8,000 surrenderees, and they have to be reintegrated in society. Another one of the main problems and priorities of MONUSCO in 2014 will be the SSR, the security sector reform, because only a good army will be able also to address the problem of the armed groups. I also informed the Council about our priorities in terms of combating root causes like the illicit mineral trade in the area. Congo, as you know, has a budget of $8 billion, which is not very much. This budget has to be increased to finance the social and the economic questions of the country. These were about the questions we were discussing with the Security Council this morning.
You mentioned credible reports of activities by M23. What sort of activities do you think this is an attempt by?
Once again, I don't understand.
You spoke about the having credible reports of renewed activities by M23. What sort of activities are they undertaking, and do you think this is an attempt by them to regroup?
Well, it's very important not to allow a rollback now in 2014. With the military defeat of the M23, the Congolese army, supported by us, had a major success. And it's now very important to get the M23 back politically and reintegrated in the DDR process. We have credible reports that recruitment is partly going on, and there might be a danger of renewed military infiltration of the country. And I encouraged everybody, number one, to speed up the DDR program, and number two, to take the commitments of the PSC framework agreement not to host military groups anywhere in the Great Lakes region seriously.
Thank you very much. Edith Lederer from the Associated Press. What kind of response did you get from the Security Council? Is there anything that can be done here or that MONUSCO can do to actually prevent M23 from basically reemerging as a military force? And as a second question, you said that your MONUSCO is actually starting with the Congolese army to work against the FDLR. How long do you think that's going to take, and when do you think you might get to the ADF?
Now, on the M23, I wouldn't make this a big topic. It is just very important at the beginning, if you have reports, just to put a stop to these kind of developments. But this is not one of our major activities. M23 is militarily defeated. They are the ex-combatants in Uganda and in Rwanda. They have to be integrated. This is the way. In terms of the other armed groups, this is our focus. This is the FDLR, and this is the ADF, which is emerging now. You heard about the assassination of an FARDC colonel the other day. The atrocities committed by ADF in the north end of last year. This is something we have to tackle this year with, of course, in the leadership of the FARDC. But in particular, our first priority, and we devoted quite a lot of resources to this is the combat and the fight against the FDLR. There are many surrenderies, 1,000 in 2011, 1,000 in 2012, 380 in 2013. So practically every month an FDLR platoon is already surrendering without fighting. I think this is important to know. We would prefer, of course, that the armed group dissolves itself without fighting. And I think the military pressure contributes a lot that people surrender. But if they don't surrender voluntarily, be sure we are using the mandate given to us by the Security Council and will use force for it.
The protests that took place?
Which one? You first. Voilà.
Certains États, dont le Rwanda, estiment que la MONUSCO aujourd'hui évolue dans une complaisance ou dans une certaine complicité. Alors, quelle est votre réaction face à cette appréciation, puisqu'ils estiment que la MONUSCO, pour traquer les FDLR, elle pouvait les identifier où ils sont et en finir, comme un peu ce fut le cas avec le M23. Quelle est votre réaction?
Voilà, ma réponse est très très claire ici. Nous avons un mandat. Le mandat est de combattre toutes les forces armées, les groupes armés. Toutes les groupes armés, y inclut le FDLR. Et le FDLR, c'est notre première priorité, conjointement avec la FRDC, de les combattre. Maintenant, nous parlons d'un territoire avec la dimension de la Suisse, où vous survolez le territoire avec la forêt vierge, où vous ne pouvez pas atterrir pendant 1 heure. Alors, on a certaines difficultés de traquer les FDLR, mais soyez sûrs, c'est notre première priorité de combattre le FDLR parmi tous les groupes armés.
I want to ask you about, if you could, the protest on Friday on this false rumor of the death of Rwanda's president. I know that you responded, and thank you for that, at least one of the vehicles had been taken over, without taken from MONUSCO by the demonstrators. But another vehicle showed up on a YouTube video, and there may have been more. What happened with these UN vehicles participating in what seemed to be a very problematic demonstration about the death of a head of state next door? And also, do you have any update on the Minova rape cases of battalions 41 and 391? Where do they stand, and where does the human rights due diligence policy either kick in, or is it satisfied by those prosecutions?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Now, on the demonstration, you heard what I said in the Security Council, that, of course, myself and MONUSCO distance itself from the undertone of this demonstration. Not putting in question the right to demonstrate, but this is also from the contents of the demonstration of something we would support. But there is no complicity whatsoever with any of these two UN cars in the demonstration. You know that there is only one street going from Sake to Munigi. This goes via Goma. And if you look at other photos, there were other cars also around, and they got stuck in this. Our drivers are unarmed, but even if they had been armed, I mean, it would not be very wise to use violence to get a dozen of young people, young demonstrators off a truck. That's why the truck continued his track, and in the vicinity of the location, I think, of the Uruguayan battalion near the airport, they disappeared. Minova, sorry. Minova, we had the last meeting in December where the accused were interrogated. Victims were not yet called in for testimony. The Corps Opérationnel wanted to decide on a mission to the areas, to Minova and Kalehe, I think, in order to find the modalities on how to question the victims. And this could not be done because the yesterday's or the day before yesterday's meeting of the Minova session was cancelled. You know, Colonel Muhammadu was assassinated, and the Prosecutor General had to go to the north. Today he is in Beni doing the investigations on Muhammadu's assassination. We are pushing as MONUSCO, as international community, in order to get this ahead, because it's important that those who committed these crimes are brought to justice.
When you have mentioned the surrender of different armed groups, when they surrender, there's been precious little said about what happens to them? I mean, there have been different reports. Is there, are they disarmed? Are they taken prisoner? Are they released? What happens after the surrender?
Now, the surrenderees, they abandon their arms. This is a process, we call it in UN terms DDR, disarmament, demobilization, and reintegration. So they are disarmed. They bring their weapons, they deliver their weapons, and they go to so-called DDR camps. This is a voluntary process. This is not a prison. We have in the meantime, because of the military pressure, 8,000 people who surrendered, 8,000. Shortly before Christmas, I was in one of the biggest camp in Vremana, north of Sake. There were 5,000 surrenderees. It is not a camp. They are living in small camps inside the village, of course, which causes problem with the local population. But it's not a forcible process. They are then, we call it also triaged. They are interviewed from which group they come, and then they will gradually, by reintegration programs, reinserted into society. Thank you very much.